Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Or if it's your very first time here, welcome to the family. You already know what it is. We're all about diving deep into the roots of greatness, the early stories behind the legends we admire today. And trust me, you do not want to miss what we've got lined up right now. Because today we're going way back, before the fame, before the platinum albums, before the billion-dollar empire, to explore the early childhood of one of hip-hop's most iconic figures ever. We're talking about Jay-Z, yes, Hov himself, and how his journey didn't start in a fancy studio or luxury penthouse, but in the streets of Brooklyn. And surprisingly, in a few small, scrappy singing competitions that nobody really talks about anymore. Now tell me this, when you think of Jay-Z, do you picture him singing as a kid? Most people don't. But get ready, because this story is going to change the way you see him forever. All right, let's rewind. Way back. The year, late 1970s. The place, Marcy Projects, Brooklyn, New York. It's a tough environment filled with sound, radios bumping funk, soul, gospel, and the earliest whispers of what would become hip-hop. Little Sean Carter, that's Jay-Z's birth name, was soaking it all in. Now imagine being a young kid in that atmosphere, no streaming, no YouTube, no auto-tune, just raw talent and pure energy in the neighborhood block parties, the church halls, and the little local events where kids showed off what they could do. And here's the twist, Jay wasn't just rapping early on. Nah, as a kid, he actually sang. He used to join local talent shows and singing competitions around Brooklyn, sometimes solo, sometimes with friends from the neighborhood. It wasn't about fame back then. It was about escape, about expressing yourself in a world that didn't always give young black kids the space to dream. Can you imagine little Jay-Z standing on a small stage, mic probably twice his size, trying to impress a crowd of parents and kids? Yeah, that really happened. See, people forget that before Jay became Hova, he was Sean from the block, a kid obsessed with sound. He grew up surrounded by rhythm. His mom, Gloria Carter, used to sing around the house, and in school, young Sean would tap beats on the desk. Not just random noise, but patterns, real music. He started entering these little community singing contests, sometimes talent shows held by schools, sometimes run by church groups. And here's what's wild, he won a few of them. People around the neighborhood started talking. They'd say, "Yo, that Carter kid can really perform." It wasn't that his voice was perfect, it was his confidence. Even as a little kid, he had that star quality. You know when you see a child who just commands attention? That was him. So here's the first takeaway. Before he ever dropped bars, Jay learned how to own a stage. That's the foundation of every great performer, right? Whether it's singing, rapping, or speaking. It's that confidence that makes people listen. Now let me ask you something. Have you ever tried performing in front of people? Even just in class, or karaoke night, or maybe online? That rush you feel, that mix of fear and excitement, that's what builds stars. And young Jay-Z, he was already chasing that feeling. Now let's talk about why these early singing competitions mattered so much. In Marcy, life wasn't easy. There were distractions everywhere, some good, a lot bad. But those competitions, they were safe spaces. They gave kids something positive to do, something to be proud of. Jay-Z's mom said once in an interview that music was like therapy for him, and you can really feel that. Picture this, a little boy sitting on a windowsill at night, writing rhymes and humming melodies to himself while the city buzzes outside. That's where the hunger started. And what's crazy is, those early singing contests gave him an ear for melody. That's why, even today, when Jay-Z raps, there's a rhythm and smoothness to his flow that sounds musical, almost sung. It's because deep down, he's always had a musician's soul, not just a rapper's mentality. Have you ever noticed how in songs like Song Cry or Encore, there's almost a melody hidden in his verses? That's the echo of those early days, those local stages, those tiny microphones, and that young kid daring to stand up and be heard. But let's keep it real. Not every performance went perfectly. Jay has mentioned in interviews that he didn't always win. Sometimes the crowd would laugh, sometimes he'd freeze up. And honestly, that's what makes the story powerful. Because every time he stumbled, he learned how to handle pressure, how to take a loss and come back harder. That's one of the biggest lessons from his childhood competitions, resilience. Because look, everyone wants the win, right? But champions are built from the losses. So think about this for a second. What if those little moments of embarrassment, those small defeats, were what trained Jay-Z for the cutthroat music industry later? That mindset, I might fall, but I'll rise again. That's the same energy that made him bounce back from every rejection, every doubter, every deal gone wrong. And if you're watching this right now, maybe chasing your own dream, maybe trying to find your voice, that's your takeaway too. Keep showing up, keep performing. Because even Jay-Z started in front of small crowds that didn't always clap. Now check this out. One of the coolest stories floating around from Jay's childhood comes from a local teacher who remembered him entering a small school talent show. He didn't have fancy clothes or backup dancers, he just had his energy and a dream. And when the music started, boom, he lit up the room. Even the teachers were impressed. That moment, small as it was, became part of his legend. Because every great artist has that spark moment. The first time people say, wait, that kid's different. What's funny is Jay's competitive side really kicked in because of those contests. He wasn't just singing for fun, he wanted to win. That drive stayed with him. You can still see it today, in his business moves, his lyrics, his performances. He's got that same mindset. If I'm in it, I'm gonna dominate it. And that mindset, born right there in those little competitions. Let's fast forward a little. By his teenage years, Jay had shifted from singing to rapping. But that foundation, the rhythm, stage confidence, microphone control, all came from those early singing days. He started entering local rap battles, doing freestyle contests in Brooklyn parks, but his delivery already sounded different. People said, he sounds like he's performing, not just rhyming. That's because he was performing. His childhood in those community singing competitions taught him how to connect, how to look someone in the eye and hold their attention. You can feel that even decades later in how he performs live, how he commands an audience with calm, minimal movement. That's the quiet confidence of someone who learned young that the voice is the real power. Have you ever noticed that Jay doesn't shout when he raps? He lets the words do the work. That's skill, pure and learned from experience. There's another layer to this too. Those singing competitions weren't just about performance, they were about community. They showed him that people will show up for something real. That's why, later in life, Jay always talks about authenticity. He saw early that when you give your real self on stage, no matter how raw, people connect. That's why his lyrics hit so hard even today. Because it's not fake, it's not about perfection, it's about truth. And that truth started with that little boy singing his heart out in front of a crowd of strangers. Now let's be honest, most people don't think of Jay-Z and singing competitions in the same sentence. But that's what makes this story so fascinating. It shows how greatness is built from layers. He didn't just wake up one day and become a lyrical genius or a billionaire mogul. He started small, like everyone else. Those early experiences built the foundation of his artistry, his confidence, his rhythm, his ear for melody, and his ability to adapt. That's why he's not just a rapper. He's a composer, a storyteller, a visionary. So next time you listen to a Jay-Z track, maybe Empire State of Mind or The Story of OJ, remember, you're hearing the echo of a kid from Marcy Projects who once sang his heart out for a tiny crowd that probably didn't even realize they were watching a future icon. It's crazy to think how those early little moments shaped him, right? It's proof that no experience is wasted. Every stage, every mic, every moment you put yourself out there, it all adds up. That's the real story of Jay-Z's early singing competitions. They weren't random childhood memories, they were the building blocks of greatness. And if there's one lesson you take from this today, let it be this. No stage is too small when your dream is big enough. So tell me, if you could go back to Jay-Z's early days and see him perform live in one of those tiny Brooklyn talent shows, would you? And what do you think he'd sing? something soulful, or something with a little street edge already? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'm dying to hear what you think. And hey, if you enjoyed this deep dive into the roots of Jay-Z's greatness, make sure to hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and ring that notification bell so you never miss another story about how legends are made. This is your channel, this is your community, and together we're going to keep uncovering the stories behind the icons that shaped our world. Thanks for watching, and as Jay-Z would say, I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman. See you in the next one. Peace and love.